Let's begin with the severe heat wave conditions that in fact continue to impact us. And that, coupled with a crippling power shortage, continues to be a major cause of concern for people in several parts of the states and union territories in India. Now, on the one side, an orange alert has been issued for 5 states, while on the other, states are battling with a coal shortage. Now, Delhi saw its hottest day in April yesterday in the last 12 years. The power demand in the national capital, in fact, surged to 6,000 megawatt for the first time in the month of April, while Mumbai, in fact, recorded yet another hot day with temperatures touching 37 degrees Celsius.
लाइट का तो बहुत बुरा हाल है।
इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया उसमें इतनी बिजली लग जाती है कि हर घर में 3-3 4-4 एसी हैं, तो बिजली की तो खपत ऑटोमेटिकली होगी।
सुबह सुबह दुकान खोलते हैं, लाइट रहता नहीं है, कभी आया गया, इन्वर्टर भी ठीक से चार्ज नहीं होने सकता है।
बहुत ज़्यादा परेशानी सर, हम व्यापारी वर्ग को तो दिन भर कठिन परिश्रम करते हैं, रात में आराम से सो भी नहीं पाते हैं बिजली की वजह से।
You heard those voices. Those are voices coming from various parts of the country. These are people dealing with the massive power cuts and also the severe heat wave to top it all. Now, the coal crisis, in the meanwhile, has also sparked a centre-state face-off. Delhi government has written an SOS letter to the centre, flagging that there is just one day of that coal supply left with the national capital. On the other hand, the Maharashtra government also accused the centre of shifting the onus on the state. Rajasthan government, meanwhile, has said that importing coal could have a huge impact on the exchequer.
पूरे देश में बिजली की शॉर्टेज निर्माण हुई है, कोल का शॉर्टेज निर्माण हुआ है और इसका परिणाम सिर्फ महाराष्ट्र में नहीं, हर राज्यों में है और इसीलिए जल्द से जल्द इंपोर्टेड कोल लाना, उसको भी 2-3 महीने लग सकते हैं। इसलिए अभी जो है उसमें से बराबर मैनेज करके लोगों की आवश्यकता के अनुसार बिजली सप्लाई करने की आवश्यकता है। जैसे पेट्रोल डीजल के दाम के लिए राज्यों को ब्लेम करते हैं, वैसे अभी कोल के लिए भी वो ब्लेम करते हैं। जो अच्छा होता है वो उन्होंने किया है, जो बुरा किया है वो हमारे राज्यों ने किया है।
पूरे देश के अंदर कोयले की बहुत भयंकर कमी है और उसका सबसे बड़ा कारण है कि जो रेलवे के रैक हैं, जो ट्रेन होती हैं, वो अवेलेबिलिटी कम है और कोयले की कमी भी है। तो उसकी वजह से पूरे देश के अंदर जितने भी पावर प्लांट्स हैं उनके पास कोयले की बहुत गंभीर समस्या है। कोई बैकअप नहीं है, बिजली को स्टोर करके नहीं रखा जाता, बिजली डेली बनती है और बिजली के लिए जैसे कोयले से अगर बिजली बनती है तो कोयले का बैकअप होना चाहिए, जो कि नॉर्मल सर्कमस्टेंसेस में 21 दिन से ज़्यादा होना चाहिए। आज काफ़ी सारे प्लांट्स के ऊपर 1 दिन से भी कम का कोयला बचा है।
10% कोयला वो जो है इंपोर्ट का कोयला सभी राज्य सरकारें आवश्यक रूप से ले, केंद्र सरकार के निर्देश हैं और उसमें 4% कोयला कंपलसरी हमें लेने के निर्देश दिए गए हैं केंद्र सरकार के द्वारा। चूँकि भारत सरकार के द्वारा हमें बहुत सारी योजनाओं में उसमें अनुदान भी मिलता है, सपोर्ट भी मिलता है, तो भारत सरकार के जो निर्देश हैं उनको भी हम फॉलो करने के लिए हम विचार विमर्श कर रहे हैं। हालांकि वो कोयला काफ़ी महंगा पड़ेगा, कई गुना ज़्यादा महंगा पड़ेगा।
My colleague Abhishek now joins me live on the broadcast for more on this entire centre-state spat and also the kind of power crisis that the country is really reeling under. Abhishek, we have been talking about the power crisis in the state of Maharashtra, and of course the other states are reporting similar crisis. But what is happening when it comes to this bickering on a political level? What is really being done on the ground so that people don't continue to suffer and something really happens and something gets moving when it comes to the fact that this problem of coal shortage has now been identified? Now, what is the state government or in fact the centre really doing so that, you know, this can be dealt with?
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. You know, now as the states are mounting pressure, you have seen that how the central government is acting. They have cancelled around 16 passenger trains, though it will cause inconvenience to those who are traveling. But at the same time, it was required because let me understand basically, you know, the major share of the electricity comes through thermal power plant. Thermal power plant are based on coal supply. coal are supplied through wagons and through rail tracks. These wagons, definitely we have very less in number, and all the complaints from the state are of coal shortage because the wagons are not there and regular supply of the coal is not happening. So at the same time, what we see, center is in action when it has stopped 16 passenger train, and they have also indicated that several more trains will be, the route might be changed or cancelled in order to supply coal across the states which are facing deficit. At the same time, what we also heard, states are slamming center, telling that you are not providing the sufficient amount of coal which is required to generate the thermal power plant. And apart from thermal power unit, there are several other means also, like they are getting from private players as well as hydroelectricity, and also other means are there. Now, what we heard from Jain Patil, he was rightly pointing out the Maharashtra government had issued tender of 6 lakh metric ton of coal to be imported, but at the same time it will take around 2 to 3 months. There are several measures planned at the moment by various state government, but they will take time to implement. What is the need of the hour is the increase in coal supply by the central government to these states, so that at least the thermal unit can be functional and at its peak and generate the electricity required. And at the same time, I would also like to point you out, several states are healing under heat wave condition. So heat wave is having a direct impact, and because of that, the consumption has crossed the peak. For Maharashtra, it has crossed 28,000 megawatt, and it will also grow across to 30,000 megawatt, what experts are predicting. So, because of the heat wave condition and the consumption are rising, and on top of that, shortage of coal. So, this all mixing together, the common man is suffering out here. At the same time, what we see, center versus state bickering continues.
Absolutely. Abhishek, thank you so much for joining me with all those details. And like Abhishek was mentioning, there is ample politicking when it comes to this issue of the coal crisis. Everybody from the center to the state, they are busy passing the buck. But what is really being done on ground, what is really being done working with the Ministry of Railways is something that we are yet to be told about. Let's now get back to the national capital region. Now, Ghaziabad is seeing a 20% uptick in the power demand. We, in fact, spoke to the chief engineer of Ghaziabad Electricity Department, Mr. S.K. Parwar, on the increased power demand and the coal shortage. Let's take a look.
आपको ये सही बात है कि इस समय चूंकि टेम्परेचर जो नॉर्मल अप्रैल के महीने में लगभग 35 से 40 के बीच रहता था, और पिछले 2 वर्षों में जो कोरोना की वजह से इतनी डिमांड नहीं थी, टेम्परेचर इतना शूट अप हो गया है, मांग बढ़ गई है। लेकिन अभी गाजियाबाद में जो भी आप अखबारों में पढ़ रहे हैं कि कोयले की कमी हो गई, जिसकी वजह से यहाँ पे अभी किसी भी तरीके से कटौती से मुक्त रखा गया है। अच्छा, यह बात सही है कि कहीं कहीं चूंकि बिजली में 44 डिग्री टेम्परेचर है, हमारे इक्विपमेंट्स ट्रांसफार्मर में किसी पॉकेट्स में कहीं उसकी गड़बड़ी होने की वजह से उस क्षेत्र में हो सकता है कि उसका प्रभाव आ रहा है। और नेचुरली जब 40 डिग्री है तो जो भी है पब्लिक का रोष हम लोग उसको महसूस कर रहे हैं। सभी जगह शिकायतें आ रही हैं, और जैसे शिकायत आती हैं उसको करने में कुछ समय लगता है। इस समय भी अचानक डिमांड चूंकि बढ़ गई है, नॉर्मली मई जून के महीने में रहती है, ये अप्रैल के लास्ट में इतनी शूटअप होकर 21,000 पहुंच रही है, जिसकी वजह से थोड़ा सा चिंता का विषय है।
21,000 क्या सर? टोटल
21,000 मेगावाट, ये 21,000 मेगावाट है।
पहले कितनी रहती है?
नॉर्मल 17,000 18,000 हमारी भी डिमांड चल रही थी। लगभग 20% जंप हो गया है पिछले 1 महीने में।
So that is the situation in Ghaziabad. Let's look at what is happening in Rajasthan. So in fact, the power crisis is also leading to major protests. More of those. We had already reported something similar happening out of Jammu and Kashmir, and this time these protests are being reported from Rajasthan's Kota. The protests in fact came after the state government had cut the power supply by a few hours to fulfill Rajasthan's energy demands. In fact, the Railway Ministry has also now notified the cancellation of around 670 trips of passenger trains till May 24th. Over 500 of these trips are for long-distance mail and express trains, and sources also suggest that the national transporter has committed to providing 415 coal rakes daily each carrying around 3,500 tons of coal to meet with the present demand that we are looking at, the crisis that we are in fact reporting to you about when it comes to what the country is really dealing with. My colleague Kundan now joins me live on the broadcast. Kundan, ये मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रेलवेज की तरफ से एक बयान आया है. हम ये कोल रेक्स और ट्रांसपोर्टेशन की बात कर रहे थे कि किस तरह से ये जो कोल पैदा हो रहा है हिंदुस्तान में, यहाँ पे इंपोर्ट की बात हो रही है, लेकिन जो ऑलरेडी है इंडिया में उसको सप्लाई ही नहीं करा जा रहा है क्योंकि रेक्स की कमी है. अब मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रेलवे की तरफ से ये बात सामने आ रही है कि बाकायदे इस तरह के और ट्रेन्स लाई जाएंगी सो दैट एंटायर सप्लाई और डिमांड का जो मिसमैच है उसको डील किया जा सके. बट मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि क्या ये इज दिस इनफ, विल दिस बी डीलिंग विद द काइंड ऑफ क्राइसिस जो अभी हिंदुस्तान में देखा जा रहा है?
बिल्कुल, एक मेजर क्राइसिस और एक साल नहीं, करीब करीब हर साल ये सिचुएशन आता है. खासकर गर्मियों के दिन में हमने देखा था कि लास्ट ईयर मानसून के बाद किस तरीके से माइंस में पानी घुस जाने की वजह से अचानक कोविड के बाद जब इंडस्ट्रियल डिमांड आगे बढ़ी तो इस समय लोगों को जरूरत पड़ी और पावर क्राइसिस की वजह से फिर एक बार कोल के बहुत सारे थर्मल स्टेशन क्रिटिकल सिचुएशंस में चले गए थे. लेकिन सवाल ये है कि रेलवे की तरफ से ये बार बार कहा जाता है कि जब लीन टाइम है, जब डिमांड्स कम है, तब सफिशिएंट सप्लाई या सफिशिएंट स्टॉक मेंटेन करके रखने की जिम्मेदारी एनटीपीसी के पास होनी चाहिए. लेकिन एनटीपीसी हैंड इन माउथ की स्थिति में रहती है और एनटीपीसी पावर स्टॉक करने की वजह से कोल स्टॉक नहीं कर पाती है. हालांकि जो फॉर्मूला है किसी भी फॉर्मेट में देखा जाए तो जो खदान जो माइनिंग पॉइंट्स के नियरेस्ट पॉइंट है वहां पे 15 डेज का, और अगर कोई पावर स्टेशन माइनिंग के लोकेशन से एक सर्टेन डिस्टेंस पे है तो उसको 20 से 25 दिन का मिनिमम स्टॉक मेंटेन करके रखना चाहिए. लेकिन ज्यादातर पावर स्टेशन उनके पास फंड की कमी या फाइनेंस की कमी के होने की वजह से वो नहीं रखते. लगातार इसके हाल रेलवे ये बार बार उनसे कहता है कि अगर आपकी डिमांड होनी है तो आप बहुत एडवांस में प्लान कर सकते हैं और रेलवे को इंटीमेट कर सकते हैं क्योंकि रेलवे की भी अपनी कैपेसिटी है, रेलवे की भी अपनी एक वैगन की लिमिटेशन से. आज के डेट में 550 के करीब में वैगन है जिसमें 30 के करीब में ये पूरा एक तरह से आज कोल पे लगाया गया है. और मुझे लगता है कि लगातार मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कोल की तरफ से कहा जा रहा है कि कम से कम 30 से 40 रैक अगर और दिया जाए तो बेहतर होगा. रेलवे अपने लोडिंग के अलावे जो डेस्टिनेशन है वो स्पीड अप करने के लिए भी करीब 600 ट्रेनों को टर्मिनेट किया गया है, शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन ट्रेनों को रोका गया है जिससे मैक्सिमम पैसेज मिल सके इन ट्रक्स को, रिस्पॉन्स कीजिएगा इन रैक्स को जल्दी जल्दी डेस्टिनेशन पे पहुंचने के लिए. तो पूरा एक तरह से कंटिन्यूअस अटेम्प्ट किया जा रहा है दोनों तरफ से.
Yes. All right, Kundan, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. So about 415 coal rakes daily. These will be carrying 3,500, tons of coal. Let's see if this really goes ahead and meets with that entire demand and supply gap in coal that we have been talking about, and because of which that the country is really dealing with this power crisis that we have been talking about. Let's now shift focus and let's get you a Mirror Now impact story. Remember how we relentlessly followed up with the management of schools and districts and state authorities that have seen cases of minors losing their lives due to negligence on part of school buses ferrying the children. Now the NCPCR chairperson has written to the transport secretaries of all the states and union territories to ensure safe transportation for school children. NCPCR has also requested the department to conduct safety audits of school transportation, mainly buses, and any other vehicle that is used for the transportation of children to school. In fact, the NCPCR chief Priyank Kanungo now joins me live on the broadcast. Mr. Kanungo, thank you so much for joining me on Mirror Now, and very good evening. This is a very important step, something that we were fearing, we should not have had to look at, but these are two back-to-back cases that we on Mirror Now really covered. One came from Chennai, the other one came from Gurgaon, where, the very school bus that had ferried these two children ended up being instrumental in really, the death of these little kids. So this is something that had become very, very important, that the safety audit is really done. Now that you have actually addressed it and you have reached out to to the states and union territories. What is the kind of response that you're looking at?
We have written to the state transport secretaries and the state education secretaries recently to conduct safety audit of school buses and school vans, whatever the vehicles carrying children to the schools, because there are lack of safety measurements we have observed. We have received complaint definitely through your channel also. These type of cases happened in Chennai, in Gurugram, in Ghaziabad, in several parts of country. We are continuously receiving complaints of lapses in school transportation, safety in school transportation, and children are suffering due to lapses in school transportation safety. So we have issued directions to the Transport Secretary and the Education Secretary of the states to conduct safety audit as per the guidelines of Honorable Supreme Court issued earlier for ensuring school safety. Another thing we have asked to the state education secretaries to conduct entire school safety audit, including transport safety, as per the safety manual of the NCPCR, and also ensure implementation of accountability guideline which is issued by Ministry of Education after Honorable Supreme Court judgment last year.
All right. And Mr. Kanungo, you know, we had seen when these instances were sadly being reported, the resistance that was shown by the school authorities in really coming up and taking any action against the school principal for that matter. They ended up, you know, going ahead and taking action against the lower rung of the order by going ahead and getting them expelled or probably arrested when it comes to the cleaner and the bus driver. So do you think the schools will be cooperating with this audit?
देखिए, कॉपरेट करने की तो बात ही नहीं आती जब किसी कानून का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कराने की बात आती है. तो दे आर obliged to cooperate, they are obliged to conduct audits of their school transport facilities. Actually, let me explain you very clearly that Honorable Supreme Court has issued an order to fix accountability in lapses of school safety measures of school managements. So, Ministry of Education has come up with a new set of accountability guidelines. In this accountability guidelines, school has to compile with the existing safety infrastructure issued by various authorities, including NCPCR's manual and Honorable Supreme Court's accountability guideline. If after audit, they found to be violating any of the guideline, so they will have to deposit the fines. In fact, they will have to deposit fines, and the block education officers and the district education officers are empowered to stop the admission in that school, that particular schools. They are also empowered to shift the children from that schools. They are now also empowered to gradually shut the school if they are continuously violating the guidelines. So the processes are set. All type of guidelines are implemented and enforced. So we have to just check out them and get the audit done.
All right, Mr. Priyank Kanungo, thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. An important step that has actually been taken. And remember, this is in the wake of two cases that have been reported, not just from the state of Tamil Nadu, but also from Gurugram, where two children have had to lose their lives because of the lapses in security and because of the fact that their own school buses ended up running over them. Let's now shift focus. A report has been released by the Reserve Bank of India, and it says that the Indian economy is likely to take over 12 years to overcome the impact of COVID-19 crisis. Now, what does the Reserve Bank of India really mean when they actually say that? Because earlier there was some sort of a rosy picture that was being painted, but this is something that could be a cause of concern because 12 years is a long time. We are, in fact, trying to get a sense of what is it that this particular report release says. My colleague Hina joins me on the broadcast for actually breaking down this entire report that's been released by the Reserve Bank of India. Yes, Hina, what is the RBI really saying? 12 years to actually get over the impact of COVID-19? That's right. Couple of interesting takeaways that we can tell our viewers from this report of Reserve Bank of India. One, the Reserve Bank of India in its report very clearly mentions that the pandemic is still not over. The pandemic was like a watershed moment. And you correctly mentioned it's going to take India a little over 12 years to be able to recover the economic losses that it has seen, the Indian economy has seen because of the pandemic, which simply means that if in the current financial year we see a growth rate of about 7.2%, if we see a growth rate of 7.5% in the next financial year, only then we will be able to recover the losses hopefully by FY35, which is a little over 12 years from now. In the year 2034-35, this is RBI's estimate. And it's very, very interesting to see this data coming at a time when we are seeing, several rating agencies. In fact, RBI itself has slashed the economic growth forecast for the current financial year, all because of the rise in COVID cases in some parts of the world. So that still remains a concern. The Russia-Ukraine crisis that is still going on, it's going to be close to 2 months now. The crisis is far from getting over. The kind of impact it is having on inflation and the way it is threatening the economic recovery, not just in a country like India, but around the world. This has led to this kind of a report by Reserve Bank of India. So there is a word of caution as well, but all is now going to depend upon what happens in the near future. This is an estimate with an assumption that this year India will be able to achieve 7.2% growth rate and 7.5% growth rate India is able to see if in the next financial year. Only then we can expect the losses that India has seen, the Indian economy has seen in the last 2 years because of COVID pandemic will be recovered by FY35. Very interesting report that has come from the Reserve Bank of India, and an important, in a way, reminder as well for each one of us that the pandemic is still very much here, and hence the kind of economic recovery that we had started to see, say, in the month of February and March when Omicron-led third wave started fading away, might not be here to stay for long, because there is a shadow of Russia-Ukraine conflict and at the same time the rise in COVID cases in different parts of the world, even though the rise in COVID cases in India as of now does not really appear to threaten the economic recovery immediately here. But we'll all have to be in a wait and watch mode.
Absolutely. Hina, thank you so much for joining me with all those details. So the growth rate that the country is going to see for the next 2 years is going to be really, really crucial in actually deducing on how really can India come out of this crisis that RBI has predicted. 12 years is a long time. On that note, I'm slipping into a very, very short break here on Mirror Now, but news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned for more.
गलती करने के बाद आप सिर्फ 3 चीजें कर सकते हैं: गलती को मानना, गलती से सीखना और दोबारा उस गलती को कभी ना करना।
Welcome back to Nation Tonight. Let's shift focus to Punjab now, and we are getting you the latest in the Patiala violence case. Now, Shiv Sena leader Harish Singla has been arrested in connection with the clash that broke out between two groups today in Patiala. This has happened after a high-level meeting was chaired by Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann. Following the clashes, a curfew was imposed in Punjab's Patiala till about 6 a.m. tomorrow morning amidst tensions. Now remember, these clashes broke out after the procession held by the group, which identifies itself as followers of Shiv Sena, came face to face with Sikh groups, which is believed to be a pro-Khalistani group. Now, in fact, several videos shot at the time of the incident showed people raising slogans and pelting stones and brandishing swords even, while police tried to control the mob. At least 4 people were reportedly injured in the violence.
इनकी आपस में झड़प हुई थी, तो उसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए एज पर मजिस्ट्रेट ऑर्डर्स जो हमारी तरफ से यूज़ ऑफ फोर्स बनती थी वो हमने करी।
सर ये कहा जा रहा है, एक मिनट, ये कहा जा रहा है कि मेमोरेंडम पहले भी दिया था, पहले भी कहा था पुलिस को एक्शन लेने के लिए. व्हाई द एक्शन हैज नॉट बीन टेकन बाय द पुलिस?
पुलिस की तरफ से सूटेबल एक्शन बिल्कुल लिया गया था. इनको ये भी बताया गया था कि मार्च बिल्कुल नहीं निकलेगा, मार्च नहीं निकाला जाएगा. उधर अगर आप पता करें तो उधर बंदे भी इकट्ठे नहीं हुए थे, कोई मार्च भी हमने नहीं निकलने दिया. सो जो हमने इनसे कमिटमेंट करी थी वो बिल्कुल पूरी हुई है. अगर हम कहें कि पुलिस की तरफ से कार्रवाई नहीं हुई, पुलिस की तरफ से डिप्लॉयमेंट थी, बिल्कुल भी मार्च नहीं निकलने दिया गया. कुछ अफवाहें थी जो इनके पास आई हैं, उन अफवाहों के बेसिस पे ये माहौल खराब हुआ.
तो प्रोसेशन की परमिशन नहीं दी गई थी?
प्रोसेशन की परमिशन उन्होंने कल अप्लाई करी थी हरीश सिंगला ने, बट वो कल रिफ्यूज़ कर दी गई थी और उनको बता दिया गया था कि आपका जो ये रूट मार्च है, खालिस्तान मुर्दाबाद मार्च, ये नहीं निकलेगा.
ये कार्रवाई अब किस पे की जा रही है सर? इधर
देखिए, ये तो जब बयान होंगे तब भी बता पाएंगे.
देखिए, बड़ा स्पष्ट है कि वहाँ पर प्रो खालिस्तानी एलिमेंट एक्टिव हो गया है. पिछले कुछ दिनों से लगातार वहाँ पर 8-10 दिनों से लगातार सोशल मीडिया पे बातचीत चल रही थी कि कुछ लोग कह रहे थे कि हम खालिस्तान के विरोध में एक यात्रा निकालेंगे और कुछ लोग कह रहे थे हम यात्रा निकालने देंगे. आज वहाँ पर एक गुट ने, जो खालिस्तान के विरोध में उन्होंने यात्रा निकालने की कोशिश की, जो खालिस्तान के पक्षधर है उन्होंने वहाँ विरोध किया, पत्थरबाजी की, तलवारबाजी की. ये वहाँ पर दिखा था. ये उसका फेलियर है, उसका एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव फेलियर, उसका पुलिस का फेलियर, उसका लॉ और ना मेंटेन करने का फेलियर है. आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार की जानकारी में था ये कि इस प्रकार का मामला लगातार चल रहा है, उसकी चिंता करनी चाहिए थी. और कुछ लोग यात्रा निकालना चाहते हैं, यहाँ विरोध में करे तो उनको ये सब प्रतिबंध करना चाहिए था. परंतु आम आदमी पार्टी सरकार तो बिजी है अपने प्रतिद्वंदियों के खिलाफ एक्शन लेने में. अब जो पंजाब की पुलिस का इस्तेमाल दिल्ली में ज़्यादा कर रही है.
पंजाब पहले भी बड़े काले दौर चो गुजरे है. पंजाब ने पहले बड़ा संताप हंडाया है. पंजाब ने बहुत सारा नुकसान पहले ही अपने पिंडे दे सहा है. साडी सारिਆਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਬਣਦੀ ਹੈ कि पंजाब दोबारा हालात ना बिगड़न. आपसी भाईचारक सांझ ਇਹ ਬਰਕਰਾਰ ਰਵੇ ਤੇ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਅਪੀਲ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਫੌਰੀ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਪਟਿਆਲਾ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਜਾਓ, ਉੱਥੇ ਪੀਸ ਕਮੇਟੀਆਂ ਬਣਾਓ, ਸਿਆਸੀ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ, ਧਾਰਮਿਕ ਜਥੇਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ.
These political forces that are in an attempt to derail the progressive government of Mr. Bhagwant Mann are unleashing these violent incidents. I want to make them, I want to make this known to them that they will not be spared, and each of them who is behind this unfortunate will be brought to book, will be brought to justice, and will be put behind bars.
My colleague Gurpreet now joins me live on the broadcast. Gurpreet, the man who identifies himself as this local Shiv Sena leader there in Patiala, Mr. Harish Singla, seems to have been arrested now. This is the latest that we are bringing. However, have we gotten any kind of reaction when it comes to his arrest? Because this has happened right after that high-level meeting that was chaired by the Chief Minister of Punjab. So also tell our viewers what really came out of that meeting, and is that curfew that has been imposed till about 6 tomorrow morning, is it still in place?
Well, yes, of course. If we can talk about evening incident, we have seen that Harish Singla, that the member of Shiv Sena, he had come to Kali Mandir, the temple there, and he was opposed by that Hindu leaders there. We have seen that stone pelleting was also, his car was attacked, and after that the police intervened, and the police had taken him from that spot. During that time, what we have seen that some of the police officials, they were already chasing him, because in the high-level meeting of the Chief Minister, it was decided that it was Harish Singla who was trying to create the problem. For the last so many days, it was on the social media, Harish Singla was challenging the Sikh groups, saying that he will hold a march and say that Khalistan Murdabad, and at the same time, in retaliation, Sikh groups, they were also reacting. They are saying that they will not allow to hold such march, and that was the main bone of contention why this violence had taken place. And we have seen that he has already been arrested in the case, and now the police is trying to procure the CCTV camera footage. We have seen that SSP of Patiala Police, he has already been there. The Deputy Commissioner, she's also been there. So all the top officers, they are standing there because Hindu organization, they had decided to hold a one-day Bandh call, and that's why the police is trying to make all the arrangement, because they don't want want to take any chance. And today, the way this incident had taken place, it seems that there was no coordination between the intelligence wing of the police as well as with the law machinery of the police. So it seems that that's why this incident had taken place. And what we can talk about the curfew, yes, it has been imposed from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. onwards because they don't want to take any chance at all, and they feel that it's important to maintain a law and order situation, to control the law and situation. So that's why this type of decision has been taken. So let's see that it's a big challenge for the government, Aam Aadmi Party government also, the local police also. And what we have learned that the Chief Minister of Punjab, Bhagwant Singh Mann, he is not very happy the way this case was dealt by the local administration. So let's see that how many heads are going to be rolled, because they feel that it could be handled much better, because this was not a sudden protest which had just erupted at the last moment at the 11th hour. This was planned by the both organizations, whether it's the Sikh organization or the Shiv Sena organization. Why that proper intelligence was not given to the law and order machinery, so that this type of violence should not be taken. The way we have seen that in the afternoon, the police was totally baffled. They were not able to understand what to do, and finally they had opened fires in air and they were trying to control the situation. But somewhere down the lane, they were not able to control the situation, and the force was called. The top officer, they were holding a meeting. They were trying to take a stock of the situation. So tomorrow is also a very, very crucial day, because this Bandh call had been called by all the Hindu organizations. So far, when we contacted all the Hindu organizations, they say that it's a peaceful dharna. First, they will hold a dharna, and after that, they will hold a march. But yes, of course, at this point of time, law and order situation control is the biggest challenge for the government as well as for the local administration. Back to studio.
Gurpreet, thank you so much for joining me with all those details. Gurpreet really taking stock of the situation on ground and also letting us know about this Bandh call that is being organized in the state of Punjab, especially Patiala, by Hindu organizations. We have to wait and watch on all the developments that come in on that particular story. So that really is happening in Punjab, but in the national capital, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today hosted a Sikh delegation. The meet was in fact hosted at his Lok Kalyan Marg residence. Now remember, this is being looked at BJP's big Sikh outreach after the Punjab polls. Let's now shift focus to the state of Tamil Nadu, and another case of custodial death has come to light in Tamil Nadu's Tiruvannamalai, where a man, Thangamani, was taken for questioning regarding the sale of spurious liquor and allegedly died in police custody. Now, the family has leveled damning allegations against the Tamil Nadu cops in the alleged judicial death case, and the victim's son has alleged that he was offered about 2 to 7 lakh rupees by the local DSP and also the SI level cop for keeping quiet on his father's sudden death. The family has now demanded an action against the cops.
என் பேர் திருமூர்த்தி, இறந்த தங்கமணியோட மூத்த பையன். எங்கள் அப்பாவை லாக்அப் டெத் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. அதை கேள்விப்பட்டு நான் மொதல் நாள் வந்து நான் வந்து தூங்கலை, ரெண்டாவது நாளும் தூங்கலை. எதுக்காக அப்படின்னா பேரம் பேசுகிறாங்க. உங்கள் அப்பா இறந்ததை வெளியே யார்கிட்டையும் நீங்கள் சொல்லக்கூடாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு பேரம் பேசுகிறாங்க. 2 லட்சத்துலேருந்து 3 லட்சம் ஆச்சு, 3 லட்சத்துலேருந்து 4 லட்சம் ஆச்சு, 4 லட்சத்துலேருந்து 5 லட்சம் ஆச்சு, விடிங்கால 6 லட்சம் வரைக்கும் பேரம் பேசுகிறாங்க. பேரம் பேச வந்தது டிஎஸ்பி அண்ணாதுரை அவர் வந்திருந்தார். கூட தானிப்பாடியிலேருந்து முத்துக்குமார் சாமி எஸ்ஐ அவரும் வந்திருந்தாங்க. இன்னும் 4-5 பேர் கூட வந்திருந்தாங்க. எனக்கு பேர் தெரியல. விடிய பேசினாங்க, நாங்களை தூங்க விடலை. இதுதான் வந்து நடந்துடுச்சு. தங்கமணியை நீங்கள் வந்து எடுத்துகிட்டு போய் அடக்கம் பண்ணுங்க, போலீஸை பகைச்சிக்காதீங்க அப்படின்றது எங்களுக்கு வந்து சொல்கிறாங்க.
Meanwhile, on Friday, the alleged custodial death created a platform for opposition parties, in fact, to launch a tirade against the DMK government in the state. With the opposition AIDMK cornering the government in the assembly, BJP too has now joined the chorus and sought justice for not just Thangamani but also Vignesh. Now, he too was taken into police custody on April 18th, remember, and he too died while being taken to the hospital. His family has also alleged foul play behind his death.
What will Mr. Stalin say when the son himself comes out and say that he was offered 7 lakh rupees bribe to keep quiet on his father's death? Isn't this a shameful episode? People in TN are losing confidence. The law and order situation is becoming a laughing stock. On many such incidences, where the head of the state, the CM, has to take the action to instill confidence in the people, all his announcements were only a mere eyewash. Vignesh, 10 days gone, they say yes, the case has been transferred to CBCID, but no such developments thereafter. A temple car which got electrocuted and 11 lives were lost. It was just a one-member commission for inquiry. That's what they say. And day for yesterday on custodial death, there is nothing happening in the state with respect to law and order to reinstill the confidence in the minds of the people. People in TN, a common man and civilian, are living in fear because of the breach in law and order by the keepers of the law themselves.
My colleague Dharani now joins me on the broadcast for more. Dharani, this particular story that's once again emanating out of the state of Tamil Nadu has bribery, has torture at the hands of police, all of it that really talks about the kind of state of affairs when it comes to the police force in the state. Now, this is not just the first custodial death that we've been reporting, this is the second one. And obviously, the DMK government has a lot of answering to do.
Definitely, they have to answer this. 10 days ago, we saw a 25-year-old Vignesh was, taken to inquiry by the Chennai police, and then he is set up developed fits, following that when he was rushed to a nearby government hospital, the police said that he died. But in that case, also the family members of Vignesh, they alleged that the Chennai police tried to, bribe him with 1 lakh rupees to keep mum about the issue. Now, a similar incident has arisen from the district of Tirunelveli here in Tamil Nadu within 2 weeks itself. So now we are seeing that the elder son of victim Thangamani, who allegedly died while under judicial custody in Tirunelveli. So he is alleging that the cops tried to bribe their family into keeping mum. In fact, in the video, he can be seen telling that a senior level of officials, including DSP Anadurai and SI Muthukumar, they were, along with some other officials, they came and they told him that they are ready to pay rupees 2 lakh to 7 lakh, to keep quiet about the death of their father. And they were also consistently, insisting the family to not make this into a big issue. So these are some serious allegations leveled against Tirunelveli police by the by the victim's son himself, and he has leveled these allegations to Mirror Now exclusively. Okay. So when we tried to contact Tirunelveli SP regarding this comment, he refused to comment on it, telling that the inquiry is going on and we cannot comment on it. So we are yet to get a comment from the Tirunelveli police on the same. But meanwhile, opposition leader EPS has demanded a CBI probe into this incident, and is told that a fair compensation should also be provided for the victim's family. But on the other side, the family members and relatives of Thangamani, they are demanding a fair and thorough probe into this incident. In fact, they're refusing to take the body of Thangamani back with them for cremation or burial. In fact, they're telling that they need justice for Thangamani, and only if an assurance is provided from the police of the government regarding a fair and a thorough probe, take the body back.
All right, Dharani, this is actually becoming really, really big because this case is growing by the day. Remember, Dharani was just talking about that exclusive response that we, in fact, received on Mirror Now by the family Skin, where they, in fact, alleged that the police decided to bribe the family after this custodial death really came to light. And they also, in fact, tortured Thangamani. Now, we have to actually track all the developments because, like Dharani really mentioned over here, that the family is refusing to take back Thangamani's body, and till the probe really is over in this particular case, until there is a response by the police in Tamil Nadu. Let's now shift focus to Maharashtra. And NCP chief Sharad Pawar, in an affidavit to the Bhima Koregaon Commission, has now called for repealing of the sedition law. Now, Pawar has said that it has been misused by the governments to stifle dissenting voices. Pawar's proposal to repeal sedition law comes just days after his coalition government in the state booked Amravati MP Navneet Rana and her husband Ravi Rana under the same law. Meanwhile, BJP is hit back at Sharad Pawar, terming the Aghadi government and its doublespeak.
उनका खुद का मानना है कि राजद्रोह के कानून को पूरी तरह से पास किया जाए, और दूसरी ओर दोगलापन देखिए कि उन्हीं की महाराष्ट्र की सरकार राणा परिवार पर राजद्रोह का मुकदमा दर्ज किया उन्होंने। ये कौन सा दोगलापन है? राजनीति में कौन सा ये हिसाब चुकता करना है? दोगलेपन की भी हद होती है। दुर्भाग्य से महाराष्ट्र की सरकार ने ओछी राजनीति के लिए वे सारी सीमाओं को पार कर चुके हैं।
Now remember, the Supreme Court had in fact sent a 3-day deadline for the government to offer its side on the validity of the colonial law of sedition. That in fact ends tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Chief Justice-led bench will be hearing the matter on May 5th. In fact, let's now shift focus to the state of Karnataka. And the government in the state seems to be dragging its feet in the fight against corruption. The post of Lokayukta, that's an independent body probing corruption in the state, has not been, seeing any appointment in the last 3 months. Moreover, the Basavaraj Bommai government has also now ordered several senior police officers to withdraw from the Lokayukta. This even as the contractor corruption case has rocked the state of Karnataka just a few weeks ago.
From last 3 months, there is no Lokayukta chief. How can the Lokayukta work? There are also rumors a lot of officers, police officers have been withdrawn from the Lokayukta. This government says about honesty. How can they give a honest when a lot of corruption is going around? 40% commission have been charged for in the ministry. And there is an allegation that ministers are taking 40% commission also. So in this case, how can this government work? I'm asking through you to the Chief Minister that why you are not appointing Lokayukta chief? Why you want to weaken the Lokayukta? Why are you withdrawing the officers? You have to, because it has come to the public domain now. If you want to give a clean and honest government, you should show your actions. You should appoint Lokayukta chief immediately and also not withdraw the officers who have been appointed to the Lokayukta.
Yes, so let me try and put these things in perspective. Firstly, we should understand that the Lokayukta as an institution itself now has been weakened after the formation of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, but of course still continues to do its duty here. But most importantly, we should understand that the post of the Lokayukta in itself fell vacant about 3 months ago, and it's been 3 months that the government hasn't really appointed anybody for that top post. Now, over and above that, in the latest development that we are bringing to the fore, through the document that we have accessed and also through the reactions that we've got, is that the government now plans to withdraw or have surrendered about several officers. In fact, 22 officers of the rank of the SP level, 42 officers of the rank of the DYSP level. Now, they have been asked to be surrendered from who are right now functioning in the Lokayukta. Now, the government, of course, can use these officers in any other department, but the question is what happens to the institution? One, you don't have a head who's at the helm of affairs to control what's happening, to look into corruption allegations directly, and to take on the biggies, which could include even ministers. Now, on the other, you don't have police officers who, of course, by themselves can look into top bureaucrats, other officials within the government, and also be the guiding force for the entire operations in the Lokayukta in itself and overall the functioning in various fields, be it in the administration or in any other wing of the Lokayukta. So definitely, this move is questionable, especially with the BJP themselves having attacked the Congress in the past, alleging that they had clipped the wings of the Lokayukta by the formation of the Anti-Corruption Bureau.
And staying with news from Karnataka, in a big development in connection with Karnataka police recruitment scam, the state CID has now arrested 5 people, including the prime accused, Divya Hagaragi from Pune. Now remember, the scam is related to the irregularities in the appointment of the police sub-inspectors in the state. And speaking to Mirror Now, Karnataka Home Minister has assured that students who were in fact cheated will be allowed another chance and also promised transparency during the re-examination. So now the prime accused, Divya Hagaragi, who was a former member of the BJP, she has been arrested. Remember, her whereabouts were not known in this particular case. Her husband, in fact, was questioned by the CBI. He was not really cooperating with the probe as far as, in fact, the CID, I beg your pardon. Now there have been 5 arrests which have been made in this particular case. Remember, this is a scam that has raked Karnataka. This is the police sub-inspector scam in the state, where a lot of people, a lot of students, in fact, claim to have been cheated in the examination because of the kind of scam that really erupted. And now the principal accused, the prime accused in this particular scam case, Divya Hagaragi, stands arrested.
A big breakthrough today. You have made 5 arrests, including that of Divya Hagaragi. But the question over here is still about those students who were, cheated in this examination, who had studied hard. So has the government taken a decision on this?
ಮೇಡಮ್, ಈಗ ಈ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಅನ್ಯಾಯ ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಈಗ ಹಣ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ರಾಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತುಂಬ ಜನ ಆಯ್ಕೆಯಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯ್ಕೆಯಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಮನಗಂಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಯಾರು ಫೇಲ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಕ್ಕಲಿಲ್ಲ, ವಂಚಿತರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ನ ರದ್ದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಈಗ ನಡೆದಂಥ PSI ಎಕ್ಸಾಮನ್ನು ರದ್ದು ಮಾಡಿ ಆದೇಶ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ.
ಇವಾಗ ಈ ರೀಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್, ವೆನ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ವಿ ಸಿ ದಿಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಸರ್? ಇದು ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದರದ್ದು ಇವಾಗ ಹೌ ವಿಲ್ ಯು ಎನ್ಶೋರ್ ದಟ್ ದ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ ಫ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಫಾಲೋಡ್ ಆಫ್ ವೇರ್ ಬ್ರೈಬ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್? ಅದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಎನ್ಶೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್?
ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿಯನ್ನು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ಈ ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ರಾಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ನ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ತಪ್ಪು ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಸರಿ ಮರುಕಳಿಸದಿದ್ದಾಗೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಪಾರದರ್ಶಕವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಯಾರು ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಸರ್ಕಾರದ ಉದ್ದೇಶ.
My colleague Neha Hebale now joins me live on the broadcast. Neha, Arga Gyanendra really said that there is going to be a re-examination when it comes to the students who in fact were cheated in the PSI scam. Now, on when in fact is this going to take place? And this stands true for all the students who really appeared in the examination, because this is a massive number that we are looking at, considering this is a major development in this scam now that Divya Hagaragi has also been arrested by the CID.
Well, that's right, Priya. The Karnataka Home Minister today did announce that they would, in fact, conduct a re-examination for this PSI exam. But, however, this decision hasn't really gone down well, with many students who had appeared for the examination and had, in fact, scored a good rank on their merit. Now, they've actually come forward and questioned as to why, they should have to prepare for another examination with a lot of resources and time that was spent on preparing. Now, it's also important to mention, like you did point out earlier, that one of the prime accused over here, Divya Hagaragi, along with another 4 accused, has been arrested today. And this would, of course, be a big breakthrough in the investigation. But, this brings us back to the question, 54,000 odd students who are having to write this examination again. The Home Minister over here has said that they would leave the accused out of this examination. But, the bigger question, of course, comes back to, it's not only the PSI recruitment examination. We've seen that there are scams, that there are malpractices happening with other exams as well. And the Home Minister himself today has admitted that it's not only the PSI exam, but whether these other examinations also would be held again, that is something that the government would have to take a call on. But, of course, really quite unfortunate, the state of affairs in the state of Karnataka.
Absolutely, Neha. Thank you so much for joining us with all those details there, and very rightful points that the students, in fact, who have scored well in the examination, they, in fact, are making. Because remember, there is this statement which is bound to borderline controversial, where the Karnataka Home Minister really goes ahead and says that all the students who have in fact been cheated in the PSI examination will be given a chance to actually reappear for the exams. What happens to the students who have not, and how does one really identify that, is something which is still unclear. Let's now shift focus to the island nation of Sri Lanka. Amid the looming economic crisis and also the political impasse in Sri Lanka, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has agreed to remove his older brother Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister of the country. Reports that have quoted a prominent lawyer, in fact, say that the president has agreed to replace his older brother in a proposed interim government. Remember, Sri Lanka has been reeling under a severe economic crisis that eventually led to massive nationwide protests calling for the government's ouster. In fact, we will get a sense of what really this particular decision means for Sri Lanka and how will this help in actually getting the economy back on its foot. To actually discuss more about this, I'm joined on the broadcast by my colleague Srinjoy Chaudhary. Srinjoy, how will this decision really impact the economy? Because here there is a blanket demand of the ouster of all the brothers from the cabinet, and really this is something that the people hold against the Rajapaksas, that it is they who have brought Sri Lanka to its doom. Now this decision, does it really help the situation there on ground?
Well, to be very honest, the economy will not improve because Mahinda Rajapaksa has been removed. Mahinda Rajapaksa, whatever you say, was president of the country. He knows how things work. But at this point, the things being what they are, there is a shortage of food, there is a shortage of foreign exchange, there is a shortage of fuel, there is a shortage of virtually everything. Now, the fact that a country like Sri Lanka, which is probably if you look at it in certain ways, probably better economically than India, to be in a position like this is actually frightening. This is actually a result of 4 or 5 very well-meaning measures which have led to what the Sri Lanka is today. Because of COVID, they said no tourism. Once there was no tourism, a country that depended on tourism suddenly found it had no foreign exchange and no money. Secondly, the government said, okay, we don't need fertilizers. We will go without fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, that is. Once you have no chemical fertilizers, food production drops alarmingly, and along with it, the production of tea, which is a primary export. So once export amounts, quantities go down, again, there is a huge foreign exchange crisis. So there are a series of decisions which has led to these crises, not just one crisis. Shortage of food, shortage of finances, shortage of foreign currency, shortage of fuel, everything together at the same time, which means that thousands of people are on the streets. They want everything, and they've suffered enormously. They want everything now. And before that, they want this government to go. Now, by removing the prime minister, the president is trying to ensure that the people are a little understanding. He hopes that people will understand that he's trying to do his best. But we don't know what the people really want now. Is it just something they'll be happy with?
Absolutely. Srinjoy, we will keep coming back to this particular story because it's a massive development that's coming in from the island nation. However, we are really short on time on the broadcast. Ending this broadcast with this very small reaction that we are getting in from Bollywood's queen of controversies, Kangana Ranaut, who in fact has now waded into this entire language controversy. What does she have to say about that entire Twitter spat between Ajay Devgan and Kicha Sudeep? Let's listen in.
जब आप कहते हैं कि मुझे वो तमिल का भी मूवमेंट हुआ था, दे वांटेड अ सेपरेट नेशन, जब आप कहते हैं बंगाल रिपब्लिक की मांग करते हैं और कहते हैं कि आई डोंट कंसीडर हिंदी एज अ लैंग्वेज, देन यू आर नॉट डिनाइंग हिंदी. व्हाट यू आर डिनाइंग इज दिल्ली बीइंग द सेंटर ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. अंडरस्टैंड? सो इस चीज के बहुत ज्यादा लेयर्स हैं. तो जब आप इस चीज पे बात करते हैं तो आपको इन सब लेयर्स का अंदाजा होना चाहिए. तो जब आप हिंदी को डिनाई करते हैं तो जो भी हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, दिल्ली की सरकार को आप डिनाई कर रहे हैं. राइट? एम आई राइट और रॉन्ग? आप दिल्ली को नहीं मानते क्योंकि हमारा संविधान, चाहे सुप्रीम कोर्ट हो, चाहे किसी तरह के एक्ट बने, चाहे दिल्ली में जो भी सरकार करती है वो हिंदी में ही करती है ना. अगर आप चाहे देश भी घूमते हैं, चाहे बाहर भी जाते हैं, जर्मन हो गई या स्पेनिश हो गए, फ्रेंच हो गए, दे आर वेरी प्राउड अबाउट देयर लैंग्वेज. लेकिन no matter how dark the colonial history is, fortunately or unfortunately, English has become that link. Today, even within the country, we're using English as the link. to communicate. Should that be the link, or should Hindi or Sanskrit be that link, or Tamil? We have to decide that. We have to take that call. So keeping all these in mind, a decisive call should be taken. As of now, Hindi संविधान में हिंदी राष्ट्र भाषा है. तो जो अजय देवगन जी ने कहा कि हिंदी राष्ट्र भाषा है, तो उन्होंने वो गलत नहीं कहा.
Kangana Ranaut there making her point clear, although with a slight technical problem. She says that as for the constitution, Hindi is the national language. Well, she is slightly incorrect as that, because India doesn't have a national language. India, in fact, has an official language, and that definitely has Hindi as well. On that note, I'm slipping into a very, very short break. On the other side, my colleague Tamanna comes up with Beyond the Headlines.